Well, a very good evening to you all. It's good Lord, I can't believe how this month is flying past. It's going to be summer before we even get there. It is January the 17th, Thursday. Good evening, Martin. Good evening, Chris. Good evening, all. And here we are. What have we got tonight? Well, we've got an interesting one tonight because unusually we've got a stack of video to play here. It's an interview because one of the things that we have picked up over the last 2 or 3 days is some stuff from the north of England, and so we're going to get into that one. It's about truck parking, but I guess the truth is that truck parking wherever you go is a big issue. We know that drivers get constant problems from finding places to park when your time runs out. What can you do? To be honest with you, not a lot. You've got to stop the vehicle because you can't afford to get caught for driving out of your hours. Let's face it, it's a big problem. Okay, but first we're going to do the news because, as ever, the tea leaves have been at work. Last night, 2 trucks lost some fuel in Selby. They were on the A63 lay-by westbound between East Common Lane and the cattle market. The driver involved said there are holes cut in the fence behind the bushes every 50 feet or so they can make an easy getaway. 2 trucks were done. One had his fuel lines cut, but they're not sure how much fuel got out of that, and the other one lost 200 litres and his fuel cap in the same exercise. Okay, another driver said he was parked at Gelders Hall Industrial Estate at Shepshed, and the truck in front had 2 small slashes in the curtain and some cut cardboard on the packaging when they were trying to, I think, look inside the package to see what was in there. Nothing was taken, nothing of any value was in the vehicle. The driver involved said that's just a heads up as the truck stop was full. Okay, let's now go back to where we were talking about this. Don't know whether you saw this on the Trucking TV website this morning or on our Facebook page, should I say. The Hambledon District Council has approved a plan to prevent drivers parking overnight in Leeming Bar Industrial Estate. And it is, they say, because drivers have been using it as an open toilet. Yuck. Well, it's not nice. It's not nice, let's be honest, and say this kind of behaviour is not really acceptable ever anywhere, is it, truthfully? I know you've got to go when you've got to go, what can you say? But the local authority, you can see here, are saying that they're introducing this tough measure because of the problem they have with lorry drivers using the area as an open toilet. What can you say? I have a problem with that because, everybody has a problem with that. Using any area as an open toilet is no joke. But the issue is painting painting the majority with a tiny minority's problems. So there is a tiny minority of people who do this kind of thing, and the reality is that most drivers seek somewhere decent to go to do because no one wants to go and have a crap in the open in an industrial estate, let's face it. So what they've done is they're going to ban all truck parking in that area, and the reality is I think they're just going to move the problem. But if you can read this, I don't know whether you can, but one of the things that the councillors did was dismiss claims by lorry drivers groups that there were no suitable alternative places to park HGVs overnight. One councillor, Councillor Fortune, said, we've got to take a stand here. People say, where are they going to go? Well, they are paid a fee to park on an approved lorry park. If they choose not to use it, then the companies that they work for need to be made aware that they're not being compliant. The truth, of course, on this one is that the world doesn't actually work like that, councillors. The truth is that what happens is that drivers go to Leeming Bar because there's a truck stop near there. They try and get on the truck stop and discover that it is closed. And that's the problem. End of story. They cannot get on the truck park because the truck park is full up. It's closed to new traffic and they're stuffed. You've run out of hours. Where are you going to go? You've got to find somewhere to park, and you park where you damn well can. And the truth is that, I'm sorry, councillors, drivers are going to be doing exactly the same thing. They're going to be going to the local truck stop, they're going to be finding it's rammed full, and they're going to go somewhere else within the time that they have left. If they go over by 5 minutes, that's one thing, but if they go over by X minutes or an hour to get to the next available place that they can park properly, then ain't going to happen, is it? Ain't going to happen. This is ridiculous. And I think this is a big problem for the whole driving community. I think it's a big problem for the whole, in fact, I think it's a whole big problem for the whole country. Lorry drivers need somewhere proper to park wherever they are. That's the truth, isn't it? So what I did, we've talked to a few people, and we've now had a word with the Freight Transport Association. I'm going to come to a thing in a minute that really, I have to tell you, I find annoying from, I'm not a driver, but I was once, so I can maybe put myself to a degree in your shoes. One of the things that's really wound me up is that when we want to get a kind of official view on the transport industry, we have to go to the Road Haulage Association, the RHA, or we have to go to the Freight Transport Association, the FTA. Both of those are not drivers' organisations, they are employers' organisations. They're really good organisations, I have to tell you, and they do have drivers' interests at heart from an employer's viewpoint. Excuse me. So the reality is that we're getting actually an employer's viewpoint on these things rather than a driver's viewpoint, but nonetheless. So there is a drivers' trade union. It's called the URTU, the United Road Transport Union. And we've been in touch with them several times. We've written to them, we've phoned them a couple of times, but they don't come back to us. So we assume that they don't really want to talk to the truck drivers that we talk to. They've got around 14,000 members. I think they should have 100,000 members. But they don't talk to us so that we can't tell the world about them. Such is life. It's one of those things that we in Tiny Telly have to kind of face. Maybe they do or don't take us seriously. I don't know, but we've got, I don't know, about 10,000 followers and friends kicking about the place, and that's nearly as many as they've got actual trade union members. So maybe they should tell us what drivers should be doing, and they should be helping drivers instead of living in a little 14,000 member world. They should have 100,000 members who they're really looking after. Okay, that's my little sermon about trade unions. We need a trade union for truck drivers that stands up and gets counted. So now, back to the RHA. I spoke to Paul Mummery, who's one of the press officers at the Road Haulage Association, about this situation at Hambledon District Council, Leeming Bar Industrial Estate parking problems. Paul Mummery of the RHA said, "This is the all too familiar story of a local authority NIMBYism when it comes to lorry parkings. Councils make assumptions that if they ban lorries, they'll simply go away." But it doesn't work like that. Truckers need somewhere to park once their hours are up. It is the law. Reports of antisocial behaviour at Leeming Bar are unpleasant and clearly unacceptable. A local council has said that they've had multi-agency discussions but have never been able to find a long-term solution. But what about some more parking and basic facilities for drivers? Surely that's more of a solution than shunting trucks a few yards down the road, because that, we know, is what's going to happen. A lack of safe and secure parking is a nationwide problem. Thousands of drivers every night have no choice but to take their chances in barren industrial estates and isolated laybys because the nearest lorry park is full or they can't get to one without breaching drivers' hours regulations. That is why we regularly hear reports of curtain slashings, fuel theft and worse, assaults on drivers. Because there is nowhere safe to park, it's just not acceptable. Recent government figures acknowledge what we all know: there's an acute shortage of spaces across the country. So the message is clear, loud and clear and simple. Local authorities need to do much more to ensure that there are enough facilities for truckers to park safe and securely. How very true, Road Haulage Association. I hope you're working on it, and I know they are, and I know the FTA are as well, which we'll come to in a minute. So that's the words from the RHA. Okay, let me just get out of that one and go somewhere else, because we've now got a chat with the Freight Transport Association. Now, the Freight Transport Association are the biggest of the employers' organisations. I've just got a little mental problem here because finding where my finger has to go. Good evening, Gaz. Hope you're well. And okay, so we'll go to this one now. We're going to move to another video. This afternoon, I spent about half an hour chatting with a guy called Malcolm Bingham, who is one of the execs at the Freight Transport Association. Now, bear in mind, Freight Transport Association is an employers' organisation. They, however, we have to say that they're the people who speak up for drivers in many ways. We do know that there is, as I said earlier, there is a trade union which is called the United Road Transport Union, but they don't want to talk to us. Such is life. So we assume that they don't really want to talk that much to drivers. I don't know. So anyway, Malcolm Bingham here is the guy, and he was very helpful, and he had a long chat with me. I've managed to cut the chat down to about, I guess, 10 minutes. But tonight we're going to do this in two halves. So tonight we're just going to do the first half of the chat with Malcolm Bingham, and then we'll get on to the rest of the topic tomorrow. The problem that occurs really is that it's too long an interview to play in one go, because we'll all get bored. So will I, so will you. And so listen, if you will, to 4 or 5 minutes. He's stating the obvious in some ways, but at least he's making the point that the Freight Transport Association is actually aware of the issue. And the more people we have aware of the issue of lorry parking, hopefully the more action we can get. So let's have a listen to this guy and see what he has to say. Bear with me just a moment.
FTA does not condone unsociable behaviour.
Sure.
However, we start to understand sometimes how it happens. Sometimes it is just plain unsociable. Sometimes drivers are forced into a situation that is not tolerable to us, or indeed the industry as a whole. It's not good for driver welfare. It's not good for the image of the industry either. And we have set about looking at how we can influence that in the best way possible. And there are a number of ways that we've started already, working firstly with government, and we have got the Roads Minister's ear about driver facilities, and the Roads Minister has written and is working with the local authorities ministers as well, because it isn't just an issue for national government. In fact, in the past, national government have always said it is a local authority issue, not their real problem. I think we've changed that in recent years, and we've got the minister's ear. What we now need to do is make sure local authorities understand the problem of driver facilities and the lack of them. We managed to get the Department of Transport to do a further survey a year or so ago, and it showed some shocking shortages in certain parts of the country. But that was just for overnight parking. Actually, we believe daytime facilities, the lack of them is even worse, because all drivers need to stop to go to the loo at some point in the day, whether that be at their own depots, whether that be at visiting premises, whether that be on the road at service areas or truck stops. And very often we've had complaints coming to us from our members and big company members as well, saying that their drivers went to stop for a toilet break and the lorry park was full. And that's the issue. I was at Lehman Bar truck park, the Exelby Families Truck Park in December. I was travelling down from a meeting in the northeast, fairly late in the evening, probably 9-10 o'clock-ish, and pulled in to refuel and use the facilities. There were trucks parked on the side roads of that truck facility because they couldn't get in. It was full. They were waiting for a driver to come out to take their place, effectively. I thought at first it was part of the unsociability bit, but then I realised that the truck park was full. So that is a problem, isn't it? We have facilities, and some of them, like the Lehman Bar Truck Park, is a fantastic facility. And drivers are using them and paying for their use, but sometimes they can't even get in.
A large number of the drivers who park in lay-bys or who park in strange places essentially would like to use truck parks, but there just aren't enough. And the way it's going, the alternatives are being closed down by councils.
Yes, and we're not a supporter of parking in lay-bys because there are all sorts of risks to driver welfare in that, and not just the driver, but the load on the vehicle as well. What we recognise we've got to do is generate more space, more parking slots, and we've got a target this year of 2,000 more. If we can get it across the country, of more parking spaces for commercial vehicles generally. I'll not just say trucks, because we have to look after van operators as well.
Sure.
Some of those do some pretty hefty hours. So it's important that we do that, and we're working with MSAs. We're obviously working with the truck stops. We've got good relationships with most of those. And the great thing about truck stop, of course, the newer, the better ones, they're secure. Drivers can rest easy at night, and generally speaking, the facilities are a little bit better, and probably more tailor-made to a truck driver's life, rather than maybe having to fight the hassle of a motorway service area.
And there you have it. There you have it. That's the first half of the chat with Malcolm Bingham. Now that goes on for another, 5 minutes. So we're going to play that to you tomorrow. I'll play that to you in the programme tomorrow. And then we'll put the whole thing together and do the thing as an interview segment that you can watch separately, if you like, over probably on Saturday, I guess. So we'll see what he has to say to complete the conversation, because I think it's, press the wrong button, because I think it's worth doing that. So we'll put it together as a separate interview. The separate interview will take about 12 minutes, 11 or 12 minutes. You can watch the whole thing end to end. But we'll play the back end of that interview tomorrow, and you can see what you think of that. I think the Freight Transport Association and the Road Haulage Association, because they're employers, essentially they're employers' trade union, and they do represent a lot of money in terms of haulage operators and companies, the reality is that they do get listened to, so maybe they'll get listened to, but we also get lots of drivers who talk about various forms of industrial action. But I guess the problem with drivers is, as we know, drivers are hard to unite. That's why I've tried getting in touch with that URTU, the United Road Transport Union, to see if they want to talk to us and actually try and encourage drivers to join them. But I don't think perhaps they do. I don't know. Perhaps they're happy as they are. There you have it. Just a note from Paul George Baines. Yes, even them has no space most nights. I think that's true wherever you go, Paul. I think most places in reality don't have much space any night. I think the truth is that the UK's parking situation is not good. I think with action as this council is taking is making it even worse. And I think the reality is, sorry to say this, but I think the reality is that a lot of councils need to take a serious look at themselves. Alan Hines, after 1800 hours, you struggle to get into most services and truck stops. I know it's true, mate. I have to tell you that I was filming with someone a few months ago, and we were at the mighty South Mims. What a shambles! And that was just jammed full. At midnight there were vehicles going around looking for spaces. This kind of thing is not on. We need to take it seriously. The government needs to take it seriously, and local authorities above all, who control the parking, the planning permissions for this kind of thing. Oh, excellent. We'll get to you on this one in a moment. It's an interesting one. Where do we go? I've just had a message from Chris Holloway, who says, I've been with Malcolm from the FTA a good few times, twice with the heads of the Department for Transport. They are really trying to change this and have been for the last 3 or 4 years at least. Well, we'll keep bashing away as well then, Chris, and you keep doing the same. I think the truth of the matter on all this stuff is that, I guess, people live in their own little bubble, councils live in their own, or councillors live in their own little bubble, in which they are essentially looking to get re-elected next year. MPs are doing the same, and the truth of the matter is that I guess that the fact that stuff is delivered every morning means that they don't have any worries about it, do they? So there you go. Okay, let's go on to the next thing, which is this. If you want to get in touch with me, bear in mind that anything you tell us, we'd love to pass on to the world. So if you have crime reports, if you've had your curtains slashed, if you've had goods stolen from your vehicle, if you have a point to make, if you've got something to say, I would love to hear from you. If you've got something to show us, whether it's photographs, whatever, video, I'll be delighted to have a look at it and share it with the rest of the world. So there you go. You can reach us through Facebook, where we are now. You can reach us through YouTube. You can reach us on the website at trackingtv.co.uk. You can reach us through Twitter. You can even leave us a phone message or send me a text. I honestly would be very glad to hear from you. So all you have to do really, I think the phrase is, just get in touch. Don't worry about it. I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you soon. Take care now.